At exactly 1:03 p.m. on March 11, 2026, a digital ping shatters the silence inside the soundproofed walls of the Clarence Intelligence Wing. The alert flashes red across 3 monitors simultaneously. Security clearance bypassed. Location, Northern Estate. Access point, the Silver Archive. Princess Anne's fingers freeze above her keyboard. 27 years of royal protocol training cannot prepare her for what appears on screen. The breach comes from inside the palace walls. Someone with intimate knowledge of the system just activated a dormant file server that was supposed to remain buried forever. The timestamp burns into her retinas. 13 hours, 3 minutes, and 47 seconds. The exact moment Queen Camilla's motorcade should be departing for Prince William's coronation rehearsal. Instead, her digital signature appears in a restricted database that contains surveillance files on every member of the royal family. And secure phone buzzes. A single message from an encrypted number. The Marionette thinks she controls the strings. Check the Zurich account. The room temperature drops. Anne's breath forms small clouds as she processes the implications. The server wasn't just activated randomly. Someone wanted her to see this. Someone who knew she would be the only person monitoring the system at this exact time. Her hands shake as she opens the Zurich financial records. Transaction after transaction. Private security contractors. Surveillance equipment. GPS tracking devices. All payments authorized under a shell company registered to C. Parker Bowles. The final entry stops her cold. March 10, 2026. Yesterday. Payment to Blackwater Intelligence. Operation William Final Phase Child Location Protocols. Hi viewers. What would you do if you discovered someone in your family was secretly tracking your children? And reaches for the red emergency phone. The one that connects directly to William's private line. Her finger hovers over the speed dial. Once she makes this call, there will be no going back. The coronation is in 6 hours. The entire world is watching. But the evidence on her screen suggests something far more dangerous than a family disagreement. The monitors flicker. Someone is trying to remote access the system. The breach location updates in real time. Queen Camilla's private office. She's attempting to delete the files. Right now, Anne's decision crystallizes in an instant. She doesn't reach for William's phone. Instead, she opens a different program. One labeled Emergency Protocol 7. A system that hasn't been activated since 1997. The screen prompts for authorization. Nuclear option requires 2-factor authentication and removes her signet ring. Hidden beneath the emerald stone is a microchip. The same chip that was installed the day Diana died. The day they promised this would never happen again. She slides the chip into the reader. The system comes alive. Every door in the palace network appears on her screen. Every security camera. Every communication line. For the first time in her life, Princess Anne has complete control of the entire royal infrastructure. The phone in Camilla's office stops ringing. The deletion attempt fails. And has locked her out of her own system. But Anne's finger hovers over one final button. The one marked Lockdown Initiation. Press it, and every exit from the Northern Estate seals automatically. Camilla would be trapped inside her own residence while the world watches William's coronation on live television. The digital clock ticks forward. 13 hours, 7 minutes, and 12 seconds. In exactly 5 hours and 53 minutes, Prince William becomes king. In exactly 30 seconds, and must decide whether Queen Camilla will be there to witness it. The Tier 1 Non-Engagement Directive hasn't been invoked since the abdication crisis of 1936. It exists in a classified section of the Royal Succession Stabilization Act that most constitutional lawyers don't even know exists. When activated, It grants one senior royal absolute authority to neutralize threats to the crown's stability. And security clearance allows her to see the full scope of the directive. Section 4, subsection C. In circumstances where a consort poses documented risk to heir safety, emergency protocols supersede all traditional hierarchy. The legal language transforms family drama into constitutional crisis. This isn't about personal grievances or wedding guest lists. This is about the fundamental security of the British monarchy. The evidence scrolling across its monitors proves that Camilla has been operating a private intelligence network targeting future monarchs. The surveillance files contain GPS coordinates for Prince George's school routes, detailed schedules of Princess Charlotte's ballet lessons, security vulnerability assessments for Prince Louis's pediatric appointments, information that could only be gathered through systematic stalking operations. Anne's training at the Royal Military Academy taught her to recognize intelligence gathering patterns. What she sees on screen represents a level of operational sophistication that requires professional contractors, the kind of people who sell information to the highest bidder. The kind of people who understand that today's royal children become tomorrow's national security assets. The moral weight settles on her shoulders like lead armor. Power has always hidden behind tradition to mask surveillance. But this time, the surveillance targets extend beyond adults who chose royal life. This time, children become chess pieces in someone else's game for control. The constitutional scholars would debate the ethics for decades. The legal experts would argue about precedent and procedure, but Anne sees only the raw data. Systematic stalking of minors by someone with privileged access to their daily routines. Her computer chimes with another alert. The deletion attempts from Camilla's office have intensified. Someone is using military-grade software to override the system locks. Professional-level counterintelligence tools that suggest this operation extends far beyond palace walls. And realizes she's not dealing with simple family manipulation. She's uncovered a sophisticated intelligence network that has infiltrated the heart of the royal security apparatus. The kind of network that doesn't disappear quietly when discovered. The stakes crystallize with mathematical precision. Either she stops this now, or Prince George grows up under permanent surveillance by people who view his childhood as leverage for adult political games. Queen Camilla emerges from her Rolls-Royce at exactly 1:15 p.m., 12 minutes behind schedule. The delay means nothing to the gathered crowd of photographers, but everything to and watching through security cameras. Those 12 minutes represent the exact time frame when Camilla discovered her system access had been revoked. Camilla's smile never wavers as she approaches the coronation venue, but her left hand grips her purse with enough force to whiten her knuckles. Inside that purse, and nose, sits an encrypted phone that has been buzzing non-stop for the past 10 minutes. Messages from contractors whose services have been suddenly terminated. Questions from security firms whose access codes no longer work. The public sees a composed queen consort graciously attending her stepson's final rehearsal, and sees a woman whose private war room has just been dismantled in real time. Princess Anne stands 30 feet away, positioned near the ceremonial entrance. In her hands, she holds a gray leather portfolio that wasn't part of the original protocol. Every photographer captures the image. The king's sister, the family's military backbone, holding an unmarked file folder like a loaded weapon. Camilla's eyes find the portfolio immediately. Recognition flickers across her features for exactly 0.8 seconds before her media training reasserts control. But Anne catches the moment. The folder represents something Camilla thought remained buried in Switzerland. The rehearsal begins with clockwork precision. William practices his walk to the coronation chair. Catherine reviews her positioning for the ceremony. The assembled royals move through their choreographed roles with practiced efficiency. and notices the staff disruptions happening at the periphery. 3 senior coordinators approach Camilla's private secretary and whisper urgent messages. Her assistant checks his phone repeatedly, his face growing paler with each notification. 2 security personnel exit the venue abruptly without explanation. The subtle chaos spreads through Camilla's support network like digital wildfire, and recognizes the pattern from her military intelligence training. A command structure collapsing when its communication channels get severed. 2:47 p.m. Camilla's personal protection officer receives a phone call that lasts exactly 43 seconds. When he hangs up, he approaches Camilla and whispers something that makes her pause mid-conversation with a visiting dignitary, and watches through binoculars as Camilla excuses herself and attempts to make a private phone call. The call fails to connect. She tries a second number, also disconnected. Her third attempt routes to an automated message. The number you have dialed is no longer in service. For the first time, Camilla's composure cracks visibly. She turns toward Anne's position, and their eyes meet across the ceremonial courtyard. No words are exchanged, but the message transmits with crystal clarity. The gray portfolio contains evidence that could end more than just a marriage. At exactly 3:02 p.m., James Morrison, Camilla's chief of staff for the past 8 years, approaches her with a folded piece of paper. After reading it, Camilla's face transforms into something it has never seen before. Genuine fear. Morrison walks directly toward the exit without speaking to anyone else. His resignation takes effect immediately, abandoning his post less than 4 hours before the most important ceremonial event of the decade. 18 months earlier, routine financial audits revealed irregularities in the Zurich accounts managed by the Crown Estate. The discrepancies seemed minor at first. Consulting fees paid to firms that provided no documented services. Administrative costs charged to departments that couldn't verify receiving any administrative support. And volunteered to investigate personally because the amounts involved fell below the threshold requiring parliamentary oversight. What she discovered in a safety deposit box registered under a false identity would redefine her understanding of the modern monarchy. Box 447 at Credit Suisse contained documents that should never have existed. Detailed psychological profiles of Prince George, analyzing his behavioral vulnerabilities and influence susceptibility. Academic records obtained through illegal channels. Medical information that violated multiple privacy laws. But the most damaging evidence came wrapped in velvet cloth. An emerald ring that once belonged to Princess Diana. Camilla had reported the ring missing after Diana's death, claiming it disappeared during the estate inventory process. Instead, it had been modified with a hidden compartment containing a silver key. The key opened a secondary safety deposit box containing what investigators later labeled the Silver Archive. Inside, photographs of royal family members taken with telephoto lenses during private moments. Audio recordings of conversations captured through illegally planted listening devices. GPS tracking logs showing the precise movements of family members during supposedly secure family gatherings, and held each piece of evidence with surgical gloves, understanding that she was documenting a systematic violation of family trust that spanned decades. The operational sophistication suggested professional intelligence gathering rather than amateur curiosity. The financial trail revealed payments to firms specializing in executive protection and intelligence services. Companies that advertised their ability to provide comprehensive situational awareness for high-profile families. Military contractors whose services included behavioral prediction modeling for security optimization. The most chilling discovery came in the form of a handwritten note found beneath the ring's velvet wrapping. Insurance policy activated. Target assessment complete. Leverage protocols established. CPB, and photographed every document using equipment borrowed from Scotland Yard's Forensic Division. Each image was tagged with GPS coordinates, timestamps, and chain of custody documentation that would satisfy legal scrutiny. She understood that accusations of this magnitude required evidence that could withstand the most aggressive legal challenges. The Swiss bank manager who granted access to the boxes later testified that the account had been accessed regularly over the past 5 years. Always by the same woman. Always accompanied by different men who identified themselves as security consultants. Always conducted with the kind of operational security typically reserved for state intelligence activities. And realized that the most dangerous secrets aren't kept in vaults locked away from the world. They are worn on the fingers of people we trust, hidden in plain sight, disguised as sentimental jewelry that carries emotional significance rather than operational importance. The emerald ring became evidence item A1 in a file that would eventually contain 847 pages of documentation. And kept the ring itself, understanding that sometimes the most effective weapons are the ones your enemies believe they've lost forever. Operation Marionette began as 3 seemingly unrelated security incidents that palace investigators initially attributed to media overzealousness and tourist harassment. The pattern only became visible when and cross-referenced the timing with Camilla's private calendar and the financial records from the Swiss accounts. Incident 1. Prince George's school route was photographed by traffic safety researchers, conducting a pedestrian flow analysis near Lambrook School. The researchers used professional-grade surveillance equipment and positioned themselves at precisely the locations where security cameras had blind spots. When questioned by school security, they produced credentials from a consulting firm later discovered to be a shell company registered in the Cayman Islands. The timing was surgical. The surveillance occurred on the only day when George's regular protection detail had been reassigned to a different member of the family. The reassignment order came through channels that bypassed normal security protocols and was authorized using access codes that should have been restricted to senior protection officers. Incident 2. Princess Charlotte's ballet studio received unexpected visits from facilities inspectors claiming to conduct routine safety evaluations. The inspections occurred during class times when Charlotte was present, and the inspectors showed unusual interest in photographing sightlines and documenting the studio's security procedures. The inspection reports were never filed with any legitimate regulatory agency. The inspectors arrived 30 minutes after Camilla's assistant had called the studio to confirm Princess Charlotte's attendance schedule for insurance purposes. Phone records later revealed that the assistant had never been authorized to make such inquiries and had used a personal phone rather than official palace communication channels. Incident 3. Prince Louis's pediatric appointments became the subject of medical research, conducted by individuals claiming to study security protocols for high-profile patients. The researchers positioned themselves in hospital parking areas with equipment capable of intercepting digital communications. When confronted by hospital security, they produced documentation suggesting their research was sanctioned by unspecified government health agencies. The research team arrived at the hospital 45 minutes before Louis's scheduled appointment, suggesting advanced knowledge of his medical calendar. The appointment times were restricted information known only to family members, personal security, and a limited number of medical staff who had signed confidentiality agreements. And discovered that all 3 operations shared common operational signatures: professional equipment, false credentials that would fool casual inspection, timing that suggested inside knowledge, and financial backing that indicated substantial resources. The telephone intercept logs revealed the operational command structure. Camilla's private office had been modified with equipment capable of monitoring and recording communications throughout the palace network. The installation had been disguised as routine maintenance upgrades, performed by contractors who were later discovered to have no legitimate connection to palace technical services. Anne's own phone line had been patched into a monitoring system that recorded every conversation and stored the audio files on servers registered to the same Cayman Islands shell company that employed the traffic safety researchers. The revelation that her private communications had been compromised for months transformed Anne's investigation from fact-finding mission to personal war. Someone had been listening to her conversations with William about security concerns. Someone had advanced knowledge of every protective measure she had recommended. Someone had been using her own intelligence to stay ahead of palace security protocols. The final piece of evidence came in the form of operational manuals found in Camilla's private safe. 42 pages of tactical procedures for asset monitoring and behavioral influence protocols. The manuals contained detailed floor plans of family residences, security vulnerability assessments, and psychological profiles designed to identify leverage points for each family member, and realized she wasn't investigating random security breaches. She was documenting a comprehensive intelligence operation designed to establish permanent surveillance and control over the next generation of the royal family. Someone had been systematically converting royal children into monitored assets whose every movement and vulnerability was catalogued for future exploitation. The coronation ceremony explodes into chaos at exactly 4:47 p.m. when Prince William collapses during the rehearsal of the anointing ritual. His body hits the marble floor with a sound that echoes through Westminster Abbey like a gunshot. Catherine screams his name. The Archbishop drops the ceremonial oil. Security personnel swarm the altar within seconds, and watches from the gallery as medics rush toward William's motionless form. But her eyes track something else entirely: Camilla's reaction. While everyone else displays genuine shock and concern, Camilla checks her phone. A quick glance. Less than 2 seconds. But long enough to read a message. The medical team establishes that William's collapse resulted from acute dehydration and stress. Nothing life-threatening. Nothing that would prevent tomorrow's coronation. But Anne notices the timing. The collapse occurred exactly when the ceremonial crown was about to touch his head during the practice run. Dr. Keisha Washington, the royal physician, whispers urgently to Catherine about William's blood pressure readings. The numbers suggest pharmaceutical intervention. Someone has been medicating the future king without his knowledge. The revelation sends ice through Anne's veins. William regains consciousness after 12 minutes. His first words, "Did someone drug my coffee?" The question hangs in the air like smoke from a fired weapon. Everyone present exchanges glances, but nobody provides an answer. Anne descends from the gallery and approaches Camilla, who stands apart from the concerned family members. In Anne's hand, the gray portfolio has been replaced by a single photograph. The image shows Camilla's private secretary, Marcus Thompson, entering a pharmaceutical supply company 3 days ago. Camilla's eyes widen when she sees the photograph. Recognition flickers across her features. She understands that and has documented every link in the operational chain. Every contractor, every supplier, every person who participated in Operation Marionette. The confrontation happens in whispers while medical personnel attend to William, and slides the photograph into Camilla's handbag like passing a secret note in class. But her words carry the weight of military authority. 6 hours until coronation. Choose wisely. Camilla's response comes through gritted teeth. You don't understand the bigger picture. Her voice carries desperation masked as defiance. For the first time, Anne realizes that Camilla might not be the mastermind of Operation Marionette. Someone else might be pulling the strings. At 5:15 p.m., William insists on continuing the rehearsal despite medical protests. His determination transforms the atmosphere from crisis to resolve. But Anne notices that Camilla has positioned herself with clear sight lines to every exit. The positioning suggests someone preparing for rapid extraction rather than ceremonial participation. The final rehearsal concludes at 6:03 p.m. as family members disperse to prepare for tomorrow's ceremony and receives a text message from an unknown number. The princess thinks she knows everything. Tell her to check the morning tea service. Some traditions run deeper than crowns. The text message leads into the palace kitchens at 11:47 p.m., where she discovers Jamal Peters, the night shift tea service coordinator, carefully measuring powder into William's personal breakfast blend. The powder dissolves without trace or odor. Professional-grade pharmaceutical enhancement designed to create subtle behavioral modifications. Jamal's hands shake when and confronts him with evidence photographs from the surveillance system. His story spills out in desperate fragments. Anonymous payments deposited in his account over the past 6 months. Instructions delivered through encrypted messages. Threats against his sister's family if he refused cooperation. The operation extends far beyond Camilla's personal ambitions. Jamal describes a network of palace staff who have been recruited through financial incentives and family intimidation. Kitchen workers, maintenance personnel, security guards, communication technicians, an entire infrastructure of compromised employees reporting to handlers they never meet face-to-face, and realizes she has uncovered something unprecedented in royal history, a systematic infiltration designed to control the monarchy through pharmacological and surveillance manipulation. The scope suggests state-level resources and international coordination. Jamal provides, and with his encrypted communication device. The message history reveals operational directives that span 18 months, detailed instructions for accessing restricted areas, schedules for installing monitoring equipment, protocols for administering behavior modification substances to specific family members. The most recent message, received at 10:33 p.m. tonight, contains a single directive. Morning coronation protocols activated. Final phase authorization confirmed. Target compliance expected by 9 o'clock Greenwich Mean Time. And understands that William's coronation has become the operational deadline for whatever larger plan has been developing. Someone intends to use the worldwide television audience and ceremonial significance to achieve something that requires a compliant and chemically influenced monarch. The device reveals communications with 12 different handler identities, but the encryption makes it impossible to determine their real identities or organizational affiliation. What becomes clear is the operational sophistication, military-grade coordination, professional-level security protocols, and financial resources that suggest government or corporate backing. At 12:34 a.m., and makes a decision that will define the future of the British monarchy. Instead of alerting palace security, she activates the emergency constitutional protocols established after the 1936 abdication crisis. Protocols that grant senior royals extraordinary authority to protect the crown from existential threats. The protocols require two-factor authentication from different royal bloodlines and has her authorization, but she needs William's consent to activate measures that would fundamentally alter royal security forever. She approaches William's private quarters knowing that her next words will either save or destroy the institution they have both served their entire lives. The coronation is 7 hours away. The world is watching, and someone with unlimited resources has been preparing for this moment for the past 18 months. William's bedroom door opens before and knocks. He stands fully dressed despite the late hour, holding his own encrypted device. His first words confirm Anne's worst fears. They've been dosing Catherine too. William's device contains voice recordings that transform the investigation from family crisis to national national security emergency. The conversations, captured through palace listening systems, reveal that Operation Marionette represents the operational phase of a larger initiative called Project Crown Transfer. The recordings document conversations between unidentified individuals discussing transition protocols and succession acceleration timelines. References to target elimination and clean succession procedures suggest that someone has been planning to remove obstacles to a controlled monarchy. Catherine appears in several recordings, her voice slurred and confused, discussing strange dreams and memory gaps that align perfectly with the pharmaceutical intervention timeline. Someone has been systematically undermining her mental clarity during crucial decision-making periods. The most damaging recording captures Camilla's voice in conversation with an unidentified man. The children's psychological profiles confirm optimal manipulation windows. George responds to authority figures. Charlotte seeks approval. Lewis demonstrates classic abandonment anxiety. Each vulnerability provides operational leverage. William's face transforms as he processes the implications. His children have been psychologically profiled and targeted for manipulation by people who view their emotional development as strategic assets. The violation transcends political maneuvering and enters the realm of child exploitation. At 1:47 a.m. and plays the final recording. Camilla's voice, clearer than the others. Once William is crowned under pharmaceutical influence, the legal precedent establishes controlled succession protocols. Future monarchs can be managed through similar methods without constitutional challenge. The plan crystallizes with terrifying clarity. Operation Marionette wasn't designed to control just one king. It was designed to establish permanent pharmaceutical and surveillance control over the British monarchy for generations. A precedent that would transform constitutional monarchy into managed puppet theater. William removes his signet ring and hands it to Anne. The gesture carries constitutional weight that most people would never understand. By transferring his authentication authority, he grants and complete operational control over the coronation security apparatus, and accepts the ring knowing that she now holds the power to cancel or proceed with the coronation ceremony. 6 billion people expect to witness the event in 5 hours. The economic and diplomatic implications of cancellation would reverberate globally. But proceeding with ceremony while Operation Marionette remains active risks establishing a compromised monarchy. The decision requires weighing the immediate stability of the institution against its long-term independence. Cancel the coronation, and the British monarchy suffers unprecedented public humiliation. Proceed with the coronation, and future kings rule under permanent surveillance and chemical control. At 2:15 a.m., palace security alerts indicate unusual activity near the ceremonial routes. Vehicles with diplomatic plates position themselves at strategic locations. Communication jammers are detected near Westminster Abbey. Professional-level counter-surveillance equipment suggests that whoever orchestrated Operation Marionette has prepared contingency protocols for this exact scenario, and realizes that the operation's architects anticipated discovery and prepared responses designed to proceed regardless of royal family cooperation. The coronation will happen on schedule whether William participates willingly or not. The most chilling possibility settles over her like lead weight. If William refuses to participate, contingency plans might include succession acceleration through permanent incapacitation. The recordings contain references to alternative timeline activation that suggest backup plans involving physical harm to uncooperative family members. At 3:23 a.m., the palace's main communication grid shuts down without warning. Phone lines go dead. Internet access terminates. Radio communications fail. The electromagnetic pulse signature suggests military-grade jamming equipment positioned around the entire estate. Anne and William find themselves isolated inside a communications blackout designed to prevent them from alerting outside authorities about Operation Marionette. The timing confirms that the operations controllers have been monitoring their investigation in real time and have activated containment protocols. Emergency generators maintain basic lighting and security systems, but all external communications remain severed. The isolation is surgical and complete. No messages can leave the palace. No calls for help can reach emergency services. The royal family has been effectively cut off from the outside world during the final hours before the coronation. Catherine appears at William's door carrying Prince George, who seems disoriented and confused. Her voice carries the same slurred quality documented in the surveillance recordings. Someone has increased the pharmaceutical intervention as the operational deadline approaches. Prince George looks at his father with eyes that don't quite focus properly. His words come slowly, like speaking underwater. Daddy, why does my juice taste funny? The innocent question confirms Anne's worst fears. The operation targets extend to the children themselves. William's protective instincts override all political considerations. He lifts his son and carries him to the secure communications bunker built during World War II. The bunker contains independent power systems and hardened communication equipment that should resist electronic jamming. But the bunker's communication systems have been physically sabotaged. Cut wires and removed components suggest that palace maintenance personnel completed the sabotage days ago as part of the operational preparation. Someone with intimate knowledge of the security systems has systematically disabled every emergency communication option. 4:45 a.m. and discovers that the palace's water supply has been contaminated with pharmaceutical agents. Testing equipment in the medical wing confirms the presence of behavior modification compounds in all internal water systems. Everyone in the palace has been consuming chemical agents designed to reduce resistance and increase compliance. The revelation explains the subtle behavioral changes she has noticed in staff members over recent months. Reduced questioning of unusual orders. Increased willingness to follow directives that violated normal protocols. Decreased curiosity about security breaches and operational irregularities. William attempts to evacuate his family through the service tunnels built during the Cold War, but discovers that the tunnels have been sealed with professional-grade security barriers. The barriers require explosive charges to breach, suggesting that escape routes were eliminated as part of the operational preparation. The isolation is complete and professionally executed. No communication with outside authorities. No escape routes from the estate. No access to uncontaminated food or water. The royal family has been trapped inside their own residence and systematically drugged into compliance. At 5:30 a.m., palace staff begin arriving for coronation preparation duties. But Anne notices that several faces belong to people she doesn't recognize. New staff members with security clearances that should require months of background verification. Professional operatives who have been positioned to ensure operational success during the ceremony. The final phase of Operation Marionette involves replacing key palace personnel with operatives who will guarantee that the coronation proceeds regardless of royal family resistance. The ceremony will happen on schedule with William participating either willingly or under complete pharmaceutical control. Anne realizes that she and William have approximately 90 minutes to regain control of the situation before the operational window closes forever. After that, the coronation ceremony will establish legal precedent for a permanently compromised monarchy under external control. The ancient Tudor escape passage behind the throne room hasn't been used since 1688, but Anne's childhood exploration of palace secret routes finally serves a strategic purpose. At 6:15 a.m., she guides William's family through the narrow stone corridor that leads to an exit outside the electronic jamming perimeter. The passage requires crawling through spaces designed for smaller medieval bodies, but desperation provides motivation. Catherine carries Princess Charlotte while William manages Prince George and Prince Louis. Their progress through cramped stone tunnels while maintaining absolute silence tests every survival instinct. The passage emerges in the groundskeeper's cottage, where Anne has hidden an emergency satellite phone and documentation packets containing complete evidence of Operation Marionette. The phone connects to a secure line at Scotland Yard's special branch, bypassing normal palace communication channels. Detective Inspector Kenya Williams, Anne's contact at Special Branch, coordinates emergency response teams and provides rapid briefings about the operation's scope. Within minutes, tactical units position around Westminster Abbey and begin identifying surveillance equipment planted by Operation Marionette controllers. At 7:33 a.m., the first arrests begin. Jamal Peters provides information that leads to the apprehension of 6 compromised palace staff members. Each arrest yields additional intelligence about the operational network structure and reveals connections to international intelligence contractors. But the most significant breakthrough comes when Catherine, recovering from pharmaceutical influence, remembers conversations with Dr. Sandra Jackson, her personal physician. Dr. Jackson had been administering vitamin injections that were actually behavior modification compounds designed to increase suggestibility during important decision-making discussions. The evidence trail leads to Meridian Health Solutions, a private medical company that provides executive wellness services to high-profile families worldwide. The company's client list includes political leaders, corporate executives, and royal families from 6 different countries. Meridian's business model involves establishing long-term pharmaceutical dependency among influential individuals while gathering intelligence that can be sold to interested parties. Operation Marionette represents their most ambitious project: complete control over a constitutional monarchy. At 8:47 a.m., special branch raids reveal that CAMILLA was not the operation's mastermind, but rather another compromised target. Her pharmaceutical dependency began 3 years ago through hormone replacement therapy that actually contained compounds designed to increase paranoia and control-seeking behavior. The real architects of Operation Marionette remain unidentified, but their operational signatures suggest state-level resources and international coordination. The investigation will continue for months, but the immediate threat to the coronation ceremony has been neutralized. Prince William's coronation proceeds at 11 a.m. with enhanced security protocols and complete media documentation of the morning's events. His first act as king involves establishing new constitutional protections against pharmaceutical and surveillance manipulation of royal family members. The ceremony concludes with William's spontaneous deviation from traditional script. Instead of conventional pledges about serving the realm, he promises that the monarchy will never again operate under external control or hidden influence, and watches from the gallery as her nephew transforms a compromised coronation into a declaration of institutional independence. The investigation continues, but the British monarchy has survived its most sophisticated infiltration attempt in centuries. The final revelation comes when Swiss banking records reveal Operation Marionette's funding sources, a consortium of international corporations seeking to establish precedent for controlling democratic institutions through pharmaceutical and surveillance manipulation. The operation targeted the British monarchy not for its own sake, but as proof of concept for similar operations against elected governments worldwide. Success in controlling kings would demonstrate methodology for controlling presidents, prime ministers, and other democratic leaders, and realizes that stopping Operation Marionette represents more than protecting one family. It represents protecting the fundamental independence of democratic institutions against corporate and international manipulation. The story continues to unfold as investigators trace the operation's connections to similar projects targeting political leaders across multiple continents. But for now, the immediate threat has been neutralized, and the coronation ceremony concludes with the monarchy's independence intact. Thank you for joining us for this incredible journey through one of the most shocking royal conspiracies ever documented. The courage shown by Princess and the determination of the royal family to protect democratic institutions demonstrates that even in our modern world, individual actions can preserve freedom for entire nations. What would you have done in Anne's position when you discovered your own family was being systematically manipulated and controlled? Would you have had the courage to risk everything to expose the truth, even when it meant potentially destroying the very institution you were trying to protect? Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit that notification bell so you never miss another story that exposes the hidden forces trying to control our world. Your support helps us continue investigating and sharing these crucial stories that mainstream media won't touch. Drop a comment below sharing your thoughts about Operation Marionette and help inspire others by discussing how we can all stay vigilant against those who seek to manipulate and control democratic institutions.